Ronald Reagan was the 40th President of the United States, serving from 1981 to 1989. Before his presidency, he was the 33rd Governor of California from 1967 to 1975. Born on February 6, 1911 in Tampico and grew up in several towns in northern Illinois, as his family moved frequently during his childhood in a small apartment on the second floor of a commercial building. His family later moved to other towns in Illinois, including Galesburg, Monmouth, and Dixon, with Dixon often being referred to as his boyhood home. Reagan's early years in these small towns in the American Midwest played a significant role in shaping his values and political views. Ronald Reagan's education began in the small towns of Illinois, where he attended public schools. After his family settled in Dixon, he went to Dixon High School, where he was active in athletics, acting, and student leadership. Following his graduation from high school in 1928, Reagan attended Eureka College in Eureka, Illinois. Eureka College was a small, Disciples of Christ liberal arts college, where Reagan continued to engage in extracurricular activities, including acting, sports, and student government. He was a member of the football team, participated in track and field, and acted in school productions. Reagan's college years were formative for his public speaking and leadership skills. He even served as the president of the student body. He graduated in 1932 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and sociology. The blend of Reagan's academic background and his extracurricular involvements at Eureka College contributed significantly to his development as a communicator and leader.
Our greatest
Skills that would later define his career in broadcasting, acting, and politics. Ronald Reagan's parents were John Edward Jack Reagan and Nellie Clyde Wilson Reagan. Jack Reagan was a salesman and storyteller who worked in several capacities, including selling shoes. He struggled with alcoholism, but was known for his gregarious nature and storytelling ability. Nellie Reagan was a homemaker and deeply religious woman who had a significant influence on Ronald Reagan's character and values. She was involved in the Disciples of Christ Church and instilled in her sons the importance of faith, optimism, and the belief in the goodness of people. The Reagans were a close-knit family, although they faced financial difficulties and moved frequently as Jack sought stable employment. Despite these challenges, Ronald Reagan described his childhood as full of love and support, particularly highlighting his mother's positive influence on his life. Nellie's strong faith and belief in helping others were qualities that Reagan admired and carried with him throughout his life. Ronald Reagan's immediate family included his wife, children, and siblings. Here's a brief overview of his family. After the final separation from Jane Wyman, Reagan moved back to the Londonderry View apartment that he had lived in earlier. He kept the apartment until he and Nancy Davis got married in March 1952 and were able to move into a house together. Spouse: Nancy Reagan, born in Frances Robbins in 1921 and passed away on March 6, 2016. Nancy was Reagan's second wife. She was an actress before her marriage and later became the First Lady of California, and then the First Lady of the United States. Nancy Reagan played a significant role in Ronald Reagan's political career and was known for her elegance, her Just Say No drug awareness campaign, and her profound influence and support of her husband. Children: Ronald Reagan had 4 biological children and also adopted a son from his first wife's previous marriage. Maureen Reagan, 1941 to 2001. The daughter of Ronald Reagan and his first wife, Jane Wyman. She was involved in politics and activism, working particularly on issues related to women's rights and Alzheimer's disease. Michael Reagan. Born in 1945, he is the son adopted by Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman. He is a conservative political commentator. Christine Reagan. The daughter of Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman, who was born prematurely in 1947 and died later the same day. Patty Davis. Born in 1952, she is the elder daughter of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan. She is an actress and author, known for her autobiographical works and her activism, including anti-nuclear advocacy. Ron Reagan. Born in 1958, He is the younger son of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan. He is a journalist and political commentator who has been notably more liberal than his father, with a career that includes radio and television broadcasting. Siblings. Ronald Reagan had one older brother, Neil Moon Reagan, born in 1908, but passed away in 1996. Unlike Ronald, who pursued a career in entertainment and politics, Neil was involved in advertising. The brothers were close throughout their lives. Ronald Reagan's family played a significant role in his personal and political life, offering a support system that he valued highly. Ronald Reagan passed away on June 5, 2004, after having Alzheimer's disease for nearly a decade.
Is appeasement, and it gives no choice between peace and
Ronald
war.
Reagan's journey
Only
into
between
politics
fight for
and his
surrender.
other careers
If we
unfolded
continue
over
to
various
accommodate,
stages of
continue
his
to
life,
back and
each
retreat.
contributing to his eventual role as a major political figure in the United States. Reagan began his career as a radio broadcaster in the 1930s at Ronald WHO Radio in Des Moines, Iowa, before moving on to become a Hollywood actor and starring in numerous films throughout the 1940s and 1950s. Here's an overview of the key periods and transitions in his career. Early career in Hollywood, 1930s to 1950s. After graduating from Eureka College in 1932, Reagan, working as a radio sports announcer in Iowa, made him to hone his communication skills. In 1937, Reagan moved to Hollywood and began a career as an actor, appearing in over 50 films and numerous television episodes. His roles in film and as the host of the television series General Electric Theater made him a household name in America. Political awakening. Late 1940s to 1950s, Reagan's political views shifted over time. Initially a New Deal Democrat, his experiences in Hollywood, including dealing with labor unions and his opposition to communism during the height of the Cold War, began to shape his conservative outlook. By the late 1950s, Reagan was engaging more directly with conservative political groups and ideologies. His work with General Electric, traveling the country, and speaking about the virtues of free market capitalism further solidified his conservative beliefs. Entering politics, 1960s. Reagan officially stepped into the political arena in the 1960s. His speech supporting Barry Goldwater's presidential campaign in 1964, A Time for Choosing, marked his public emergence as a prominent conservative voice. He became involved in politics as a member of the Democratic Party, but switched to the Republican Party in 1962. Reagan's presidency was marked by several key policies and events, including tax cuts, increased military spending, a strong stance against the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and efforts to reduce government spending on domestic programs. His administration also saw economic recovery from the severe recession of the early 1980s, though his policies have been credited with both stimulating economic growth and increasing national debt. Reagan's ability to connect with the American public through his speeches earned him the nickname the Great Communicator. In 1966, Reagan successfully ran for governor of California, serving 2 terms from 1967 to 1975. His gubernatorial tenure tested and shaped his political ideologies and leadership style. National politics, 1970s to 1980s. After 2 unsuccessful attempts at the Republican nomination for president in 1968 and 1976, Reagan won the nomination and subsequently the presidency in 1980, defeating incumbent President Jimmy Carter. Reagan served as President of the United States from 1981 to 1989. His presidency was marked by significant domestic and international events, including economic policies known as Reaganomics, a tough stance against the Soviet Union, and a charismatic leadership style that resonated with many Americans. Ronald Reagan's transition from Hollywood to politics was gradual, involving shifts in his personal beliefs, influenced by the socio-political climate and his own experiences. His unique path helped shape his perspective as a leader and his impact on American and global politics. He left office in 1989, and his legacy remains influential in American politics, with many conservatives continuing to admire his policies and leadership style. Ronald Reagan's approach towards the Soviet Union during his presidency was marked by a combination of diplomatic, economic, and military strategies that played a significant role in shaping United States-Soviet relations, and ultimately contributed to the end of the Cold War.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Some of Ronald Reagan's notable achievements and actions regarding the Soviet Union include increased military spending. Reagan oversaw a significant increase in United States military spending, including the modernization and expansion of the armed forces. This buildup of United States military capabilities put pressure on the Soviet Union and contributed to the erosion of its economic stability as it attempted to match the United States militarily. Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI. Reagan's proposal of the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, in 1983, also known as Star Wars, aimed to develop a space-based missile defense system to protect against potential nuclear attacks. While controversial and never fully realized, SDI added pressure on the Soviet Union and highlighted the technological gap between the two superpowers. Reagan-Gorbachev Summit Meetings. Reagan held a series of summit meetings with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, beginning with the Geneva Summit in 1985. These meetings provided opportunities for dialogue, increased understanding, and the negotiation of arms control agreements. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, INF, Treaty. Reagan and Gorbachev signed the INF Treaty in 1987, leading to the elimination of all intermediate-range and shorter-range missiles in Europe. This treaty was a significant milestone in reducing nuclear tensions between the superpowers. Role in ending the Cold War. Reagan's strong anti-communist stance, military buildup, and willingness to engage in negotiations with the Soviet Union are often credited with contributing to the end of the Cold War. His policies created pressure on the Soviet Union both economically and militarily, ultimately leading to its dissolution in 1991. Ronald Reagan's approach to the Soviet Union played a crucial role in reshaping the landscape of international relations and leading to the eventual collapse of the Soviet Empire. His strategic decisions and diplomatic engagements with the Soviet leadership are considered pivotal in bringing an end to decades of Cold War tensions. Ronald Reagan made several predictions and assessments about the Soviet Union during his presidency, many of which reflected his strong anti-communist stance and belief in the eventual collapse of the Soviet system. Some of Reagan's predictions and views on the Soviet Union include firm belief in the inevitability of communism's failure. Reagan was a staunch believer in the superiority of democracy and capitalism over communism. He often expressed his conviction that the Soviet system was destined to fail, and that the values of freedom and individual rights would ultimately prevail. Famous phrase, evil empire. Reagan famously referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire in a speech to the National Association of Evangelicals in 1983. This characterization reflected his view of the Soviet regime as oppressive and totalitarian. Tear down this wall. In his speech at the Brandenburg Gate in West Berlin in 1987,
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Reagan challenged Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall that divided East and West Berlin. This call for the reunification of Berlin and the dismantling of the Berlin Wall became a symbolic moment in the Cold War. Predictions of strategic weakness. Reagan often highlighted what he saw as the economic weaknesses and technological deficiencies of the Soviet Union. He believed that the United States-led military and economic pressure on the Soviet Union would ultimately lead to its downfall. Optimism in the future of United States-Soviet relations. Despite his tough rhetoric and strong anti-communist stance, Reagan also expressed optimism about the potential for improved relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. He believed that negotiation and dialogue could lead to a better understanding and ultimately the reduction of tensions between the superpowers. Reagan's predictions and assessments of the Soviet Union reflected his strong convictions, strategic approach to foreign policy, and his role as a key figure in the final years of the Cold War. Many of his views and actions laid the groundwork for the eventual transformation of United States-Soviet relations and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Ronald Reagan's presidency, which spanned from 1981 to 1989, was marked by several key achievements that left a lasting impact on American politics and society. Some of the notable accomplishments and initiatives during Reagan's presidency include Reaganomics. Reagan implemented a series of economic policies known as Reaganomics or supply-side economics, which included tax cuts, deregulation, and reductions in government spending. These policies were aimed at stimulating economic growth, reducing inflation, and boosting job creation. Cold War policies. Reagan took a hardline stance against the Soviet Union, famously calling for Mikhail Gorbachev, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, to tear down this wall in reference to the Berlin Wall. His strong anti-communist policies and military buildup played a role in the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union. Recovery from recession. Reagan inherited an economy facing high inflation, unemployment, and slow growth. Through his economic policies, the economy experienced a period of sustained growth and recovery, leading to a decrease in unemployment rates and an expansion of the GDP. Appointment of conservative judges. Reagan appointed socially and economically conservative judges to the federal courts, including the appointment of 3 Supreme Court justices: Sandra Day O'Connor, Antonin Scalia, and Anthony Kennedy. 1987 INF Treaty. Reagan negotiated the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces (INF) Treaty with the Soviet Union, resulting in the elimination of all intermediate-range and shorter-range missiles by both countries. Tax reform. Reagan signed the Tax Reform Act of 1986, a major tax reform bill that simplified the tax code, reduced tax rates, and broadened the tax base. Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI. Reagan proposed the SDI, also known as Star Wars, a missile defense system designed to protect against potential nuclear attacks. While the full system was never implemented, it influenced future defense strategies. These achievements and policies defined the Reagan presidency and continue to shape political conversations and policies in the United States. Reagan's legacy as a conservative icon and influential leader is often associated with his accomplishments during his time in office. Firm belief in the inevitability of communism's failure. Reagan was a staunch believer in the superiority of democracy and capitalism over communism. He often expressed his conviction that the Soviet system was destined to fail, and that the values of freedom and individual rights would ultimately prevail. Famous phrase, evil empire. Reagan famously referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire in a speech to the National Association of Evangelicals in 1983. This characterization reflected his view of the Soviet regime as oppressive and totalitarian. Tear down this wall. In his speech at the Brandenburg Gate in West Berlin in 1987,
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Reagan challenged Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall that divided East and West Berlin. This call for the reunification of Berlin and the dismantling of the Berlin Wall became a symbolic moment in the Cold War. Predictions of strategic weakness. Reagan often highlighted what he saw as the economic weaknesses and technological deficiencies of the Soviet Union. He believed that the United States-led military and economic pressure on the Soviet Union would ultimately lead to its downfall. Optimism in the future of United States-Soviet relations. Despite his tough rhetoric and strong anti-communist stance, Reagan also expressed optimism about the potential for improved relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. He believed that negotiation and dialogue could lead to a better understanding and ultimately the reduction of tensions between the superpowers. Reagan's predictions and assessments of the Soviet Union reflected his strong convictions, strategic approach to foreign policy, and his role as a key figure in the final years of the Cold War. Many of his views and actions laid the groundwork for the eventual transformation of United States-Soviet relations and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Ronald Reagan wrote several books over the course of his life, including works before and after his presidency. These books span a range of topics, including his personal views on politics, reflections on his time in office, and his autobiography. Here are some notable books by Ronald Reagan. Where's the Rest of Me? 1965. This autobiography, written during his acting career and before his full-fledged entry into politics, is titled after a line from one of his movies, King's Row. The book covers his early life, acting career, and personal philosophy. An American Life, 1990. This is Reagan's post-presidency autobiography, in which he reflects on his life, including his youth in Illinois, his career in Hollywood, and his time in office. It provides insights into the decisions and events of his presidency. The Reagan Diaries, 2007. This book is a published version of the diaries he kept during his time in the White House. Edited by historian Douglas Brinkley, it offers a daily account of his presidency from 1981 to 1989, offering personal insights into the life and mind of the 40th president. Speaking My Mind, 1989. A collection of Reagan's speeches that give insight into his political views, vision for America, and the principles that guided his actions as president. The Notes, Ronald Reagan's private collection of stories and wisdom, 2011. This book reveals Reagan's collection of stories, personal anecdotes, and quotes that he gathered over the years. It was published posthumously, and offers a look at the wisdom and humor he brought to his public and private life. Ronald Reagan's writings provide a window into his perspectives, values, and the significant moments of his life and political career. They remain a valuable resource for understanding his legacy and the principles that shaped his leadership. Ronald Reagan had a successful career as an actor before transitioning into politics. He appeared in over 50 films during the 1930s, 1940s, and early 1950s. Some of his notable film appearances include Newt Rockne, All-American, 1940. In this film, Reagan portrayed the character of Notre Dame football player George Gipp and delivered the iconic line, "Win one for the Gipper," a line that would later be associated with him in his political career. King's Row, 1942. Reagan played the role of Drake McHugh, a local playboy who suffers a tragedy that leads to the famous exclamation, "Where's the rest of me?" This phrase also became the title of his autobiography. This is the Army, 1943. A wartime musical in which Reagan played the role of Johnny Jones, a soldier serving in World War I. Santa Fe Trail, 1940. Reagan starred alongside Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland in this Warner Brothers film set during the days leading up to the Civil War. These are just a few examples of Ronald Reagan's filmography. His acting career not only established him as a Hollywood personality but also provided him with skills in public speaking and communication that would prove valuable in his later political career. Ronald Reagan received several awards and honors throughout his life, recognizing his contributions to the fields of entertainment, politics, and public service. Some of the notable awards and honors he received include Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award. In 1983, Reagan was honored with the Screen Actors Guild's highest honor for his contributions to the entertainment industry. Presidential Medal of Freedom. Reagan received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the United States, in 1993, posthumously awarded by President Bill Clinton. Congressional Gold Medal. Reagan was posthumously awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 2002, in recognition of his leadership and service to the country as president. Knight's Grand Cross of the Order of the Bath. In 1989, Queen Elizabeth II awarded Reagan this honorary knighthood for his contribution to the defense and security of the United Kingdom. Honorary British citizenship. In 1992, Reagan was honored with honorary British citizenship for his role in ending the Cold War and strengthening Anglo-American relations. Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Reagan was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year twice, in 1980 and 1983, in recognition of his impact on American and global politics. These awards and honors reflect the esteem in which Reagan was held, both for his accomplishments in the entertainment industry and his leadership as the President of the United States during a transformative period in history. At the time of his death in June 2004, Ronald Reagan's net worth was estimated to be around $13 million. The bulk of his wealth came from his earnings as an actor during his Hollywood career, his work as a television host, and his investments. After leaving the presidency, Reagan earned income from speaking engagements, book deals, and other sources. Reagan's net worth also included his assets such as real estate, investments, and retirement accounts. Despite his success in various endeavors, Reagan's net worth was notably lower compared to some modern-day presidents, reflecting a different era where public service and political leadership often didn't lead to immense personal wealth. Also, at the time of Ronald Reagan's death in 2004, he owned several vehicles, including some notable cars that reflected his personal tastes and status as a former president of the United States. Some of the cars known to have been in his collection at the time of his passing include Jeep CJ8 Scrambler. Reagan was known to enjoy outdoor activities like horseback riding and ranching. The Jeep CJ8 Scrambler was a versatile off-road vehicle that suited his ranch lifestyle. Lincoln Continental. Reagan often preferred American-made cars, and the Lincoln Continental was one of the luxury vehicles he owned. This classic American car was synonymous with elegance and comfort, fitting for a former president. Mercedes-Benz 600. The Mercedes-Benz 600 is a prestigious and iconic luxury sedan. Reagan was known to appreciate fine craftsmanship and quality, making this vehicle a fitting addition to his collection. While these are some of the known cars that Reagan owned at the time of his death, he had access to a variety of vehicles given his status and varied interests. His car collection reflected his personal style and preferences, as well as his appreciation for quality and comfort in transportation. At the time of his death in 2004, Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy resided primarily in their Bel Air, Los Angeles home, commonly known as the Reagan home. The Reagan's Bel Air property, situated in an upscale neighborhood in Los Angeles, served as their main residence during their post-presidential years. The home was a private and secluded estate where the couple enjoyed their retirement together. For the next 6 years, he spent his time organizing his memoirs and supervising the creation of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. Ronald Reagan also had a ranch known as Rancho del Cielo, meaning ranch in the sky, located near Santa Barbara, California. This ranch property was a retreat for the Reagans, offering a peaceful getaway from the bustle of city life. While the Bel Air residence was their main home, Rancho del Cielo held a special place in their hearts as a tranquil and scenic location where they could relax and enjoy the beauty of nature. These residences were significant to the Reagans, providing them with comfort, privacy, and a sense of home during their later years. He enjoyed his retirement, traveling once or twice a week to his suite of offices in a nearby Century City Tower complex, and riding at his ranch northwest of Santa Barbara whenever possible. Throughout his life and presidency, Ronald Reagan was involved in various charity endeavors and philanthropic activities. He made significant contributions to American society both during his time as president and throughout his life. Some of Ronald Reagan's key contributions to society include humanitarian causes. Reagan lent his support to various humanitarian causes, including efforts to combat homelessness, hunger, and poverty. He believed in the power of individual and community action to address social issues. Veterans organizations. As a strong advocate for the military and veterans, Reagan supported organizations dedicated to assisting veterans and their families. He recognized the sacrifices made by military service members and sought to ensure their well-being and support. Educational initiatives. Reagan placed a high value on education and supported initiatives aimed at improving educational opportunities for young people. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation offers educational programs and scholarships to support students in their academic pursuits. Economic policies. Reagan's economic policies, often referred to as Reaganomics, focused on reducing taxes, deregulating industries, and promoting free market principles. These policies contributed to economic growth, job creation, and a renewed sense of prosperity in the United States during the 1980s. Alzheimer's disease research. Following his diagnosis with Alzheimer's disease in 1994, Ronald Reagan and his wife, Nancy, became advocates for Alzheimer's research and awareness. The establishment of the Ronald and Nancy Reagan Research Institute aimed to support scientific research into the disease. Reagan Presidential Foundation. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, established in 1989, is dedicated to preserving and promoting Reagan's legacy, as well as supporting a variety of educational and philanthropic programs. Restoring national confidence. Reagan's leadership style and optimistic rhetoric helped restore a sense of national confidence and pride during a period of economic and political uncertainty. His ability to communicate effectively with the American public earned him the nickname the Great Communicator. End of the Cold War. Reagan played a pivotal role in the end of the Cold War through his policies of military buildup, strategic negotiations with the Soviet Union, and his firm stance against communism. His approach to diplomacy and the eventual thawing of relations with the Soviet Union contributed to the peaceful conclusion of the Cold War. Conservative ideals. As a standard-bearer for modern American conservatism, Reagan promoted traditional values, a strong national defense, limited government intervention in the economy, and individual freedom. His advocacy for these principles helped shape the direction of the Republican Party and conservative politics for years to come. Promoting volunteerism. Reagan emphasized the value of volunteerism and community service, encouraging Americans to give back to their communities and support causes they believed in. His belief in the power of individual action to effect positive change resonated with many Americans. Positive influence on American politics. Ronald Reagan's presidency and legacy have had a lasting impact on American politics, influencing subsequent generations of leaders and shaping public discourse on key issues such as limited government, tax policy, and foreign relations. Ronald Reagan's contributions to society, both as president and as a public figure, continue to be remembered and debated, with his policies and ideals leaving a lasting imprint on American politics and society. His commitment to supporting philanthropic causes and giving back to society left a positive impact on charitable efforts during and after his presidency. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comment, and share this video. And please turn on your notification in order to see more of my videos. Thank you for watching.